everyone to the Friday edition of the Field of 68 Best Bet Show, presented by our fine sponsor, Bet Rivers. I'm Matt. That's Jim. That's Kai. We're here. Got a short slate to kick us off, a little appetizer before the hearty one tomorrow. Mr. McKee and Mr. Roots, kind of the calm before the storm, allows us to dig into every single game in detail. And I'm sure, given the small nature of tonight's slate, we'll probably hit all of these games at some point in our chat mob. A key part of today's outline, we'll hit that twice. Got some big conference showdowns, though, teeing up tonight and into the weekend. Already had a few last night. Speaking of, Jim, you watched a lot of college hoops last night, as did I. What did you learn? Tell us. Tell me.
I learned that there is a tough race for the worst power conference team in basketball. We're going to see one of them tonight in Pitt, but man, Oregon State and Mizzou are sprinting to the bottom right now. Mizzou had one field goal in the first 16 minutes against Liberty, who is a decent defensive team, good defensive team, but Mizzou's awful. And Oregon State got blown out at California, who was picked last in the preseason Pac-12 poll. So, man, with the way that Iowa State and Georgia have played already, they both beat Memphis. That's impressive. There are some bad candidates, Kai, and sadly, our Tigers, who are, as you see, upside down behind me, they are one of the few in the proud.
Special breed.
Yeah,
Special
and
breed.
Reminder to all those out there, the media picked Oregon State to finish fourth in the Pac-12.
Not us. Not us. We're just a bunch of hack independent bloggers. The real media did not do that of any service. Just despicable.
Anytime your alma mater, Mizzou, for me and Jim, is struggling, you have to focus the attention on someone else. And
redirect, baby. Redirect.
That's right. Redirect. I want to talk about St. Mary's, Utah State really quick, because that game was nuts. Hopefully some of you out there watched it. St. Mary's won the game, but some controversy in the last play there. A foul was called with under 1 second left in a tie game. Randy Bennett seems like he accused Ryan Odom of screwing with the clock in the handshake line, wouldn't shake his hand. Then he was like clapping at the fans, Randy Bennett, as he was going out of the locker room.
Yeah, Odom said something like, "Don't be like that.
Yeah.
Don't be like that."
Yeah.
It was weird.
Bennett was looking pretty heated. It was fun, though. It was fun game. I mean, it wasn't like pretty, Jim, or anything like that, but it was a competitive game to watch.
I was going to say, it was actually, for a game that was that low scoring, I actually found it to be aesthetically pleasing, because both of the offensive actions were fun to watch and just intriguing to pick apart what each mastermind was doing. It was kind of like the two chess masters going head to head. So I enjoyed it, Kai, as a basketball purist. I know you're not quite in that same stratosphere of basketball fan as myself. It's okay. You'll get there. Just takes time. Just takes a little time. I have 3 takeaways. I'll get to them quickly. I don't want to hog up our show breakdowns here. Jim rolls his eyes, I know. But hey, there's a lot to learn last night, Jim. Great night at the college basketball schoolyard. First of all, if you're a live bettor, which I am not, I don't think Kai or Jim are either. Please speak for yourselves. I don't believe either of us do a lot of live betting.
Nope.
These early conference games, the underdogs especially, seem to be really punching back. There's a lot of massive in-game swings. We saw, I think, on 4 or 5 different occasions. I wrote down 3 of the Big Sky games in Illinois, Chicago, and the Horizon come to mind, where big favorite gets up large, the underdog punches back with some vengeance. I just think there's an anecdotal narrative there where it's the first conference game. The underdogs are not going to lay down. So if you're looking to live bet maybe on an underdog you like, I think now is the right time to do it. 2 more things. Taron Armstrong is awesome, Jim. Cal Baptist, most fun player to watch in college basketball. That's not hyperbole. If you have ESPN Plus.
1 rebound away from a triple-double last night, 11 assists,
insane.
0 turnovers, and there were like 6 missed open shots and layups. Like, he could have had 15 to 20 assists. He's absurd.
Add him to your Saturday must-watch calendar. And thirdly, you can take off Milwaukee from that calendar, even though they have a guy named PBJ who did not play last night. I know that team is still littered with talent, atrociously coached, really just disappointing. Just kind of sad to see another Power 5 or a blue chip recruit go to a mid-major, and then all the hoopla just kind of comes crashing down like we saw with McCurr at Howard 2 years ago. All right, let's get into it here, fellas. We got 2 Big Ten showdowns and then 2 ACC showdowns. Clearly, we'll see the dichotomy and league caliber and interest as we wade into the Pittsburgh waters with our 4th game here. But first, Iowa at Purdue, Kai. The big bad Boilers are not to be stopped. The odds makers have caught on. Seems like everyone and their mother is betting Purdue today. The line opened around 10. It's been bet up to closer to 12 at this point. As I look at the updated Bet River screen, Iowa catching 12 points on the road intrigues me, but it seems like I'm the only person in America who has interest in backing Iowa here.
Gosh, 12.5 feels like a big number. Iowa's not a bad team at all. They could be top 25 team. The over Matt, is what screams out to me. I'm sure everyone else is thinking the same thing. And the total is, I'm trying to get a new number here, 160.5. I mean, that's huge. I can see this game being like 90 to 80. You have two of the top three offenses in the country going against each other. Iowa should get some shots off. Keegan Murray can't be stopped by anybody, including Purdue. He's just excellent. And then Jim, I think Purdue's going to score every time down the floor. I mean, look how easy Virginia scored on this team. Purdue's going to put up points easily.
Yeah, I mean, NC Central scored like 1 point per possession against Iowa's defense. Alabama State scored well above that. Longwood scored 1 point per possession. Like Iowa's defense is not good. It's not better than it has been. Unfortunately, the athletes are still limited. Perimeter quickness is lacking for sure. I think Purdue gets 90. So if you want to bet team total over, that's probably a decent route. I'm guessing it's around 85.5, 86. So Purdue team total over, because I'm just not sure whether Iowa scores 72 and gets blown out or scores 85 with them and keeps up. The most confident thing I feel here is Purdue getting buckets whenever they want, Matthew. Right. So that's kind of like the most comfortable bet I have here.
That's fair. I've been defending Iowa's defense in small part this season so far, but let me refine my take in this context of the Purdue matchup. It's not built to stop Purdue at all. I think what Iowa has
Alabama
last
State,
year,
not built to stop SWAC teams either.
That's a good offense that Mo Williams runs down there, Jim. You cannot take that team lightly, baby. The Hornets are for real this year, so I don't put any harm on that effort. But in all seriousness, Keegan Murray and Joe Toussaint and even Chris Murray, Keegan's brother, there's a little bit of a dose of quickness that Iowa didn't have defensively last year, but the brute size up front for Purdue is going to be too much. And you look at Jaden Ivey potentially. What?
Maryland just parted ways with Mark Turgeon. Reported by the Field of 68's Jeff Goodman. Just got that notification.
What? Get him on that live stream. We'll have to patch his feed in here shortly. Yeah, that's big news. Are we surprised? Let's get quick reactions here. Kyle, are we surprised?
Yeah, it's December 3rd. What? Something must have happened.
Yeah, timing of this is banana land. I mean, they have been not awesome to start the year, but they got a decent win on a neutral
not disastrous,
over
right? Not disastrous.
It's not because of performance.
There's got to be something going on. Oh, goodness, that is a midstream stunner there.
Goodman bomb.
Love that. We appreciate Goodman. I hope that we'll see a significant spike in our viewers because of that. So thank you, Jeff, for throwing us a bone there.
Oh, do you guys know who the interim coach is?
It's one of the assistants.
It's Danny Manning, Matthew.
Oh my goodness. The Wake Forest Demons.
Everyone.
Oh my goodness. I love that. Man, okay. A million ways we could spend that one. We'll have to chat mob run wild with that. But we have a show to do. We have a contract and we're going to follow the outline very strictly as I always do. So next game, another Big Ten tilt. Illinois, Jim, hosting Rutgers, the Scarlet Knights. You saw Rutgers finally break out of their slump against Clemson. Could argue that was a turning over of a new leaf, a start of a potential correction, or you could argue that was simply a one-game home non-conference hype spot, which we have seen play very well. So what do you make of this Rutgers team as they travel to Champaign to take on a Andre Curbelo-less Illinois squad?
Well, Geo Baker's status is big. Not sure if he's going to be back. I don't think it's been for sure reported one way or the other. I'll be honest, Matt, that felt more like a one-game home run effort from Rutgers, a desperate Rutgers team, than it did like a team rediscovering itself. Clemson couldn't make anything from the outside. Rutgers shot the ball strangely well for a team that can't shoot, doesn't have shooters. So I think they kind of get worked on the road here. Curbelo being out doesn't bother me right now because it turns the ball over a ton. We should see a healthier Frazier. He came back against Notre Dame and was getting back into the groove from his injury. And Coleman Hawkins has been good. I think Illinois is going to be pretty solid. Not, like top 10 preseason like we thought maybe because the Curbelo breakout's not happening. But Rutgers, they feel a little bit down and out to me going back on the road. I don't like it.
Yeah, I think Illinois can get back there sometime. I'm giving Curbelo another chance whenever he comes back. I guess he's just banged up or something. I don't know. Maybe he needs some time to get his head right. Literally, I think he bumped his head. Frazier, guys, played 32 minutes in the last game.
Looked great,
which
he did.
Was a shock to us Notre Dame backers. But, they're just fine without him. Geo Baker still on the fence? Do we know?
Yeah, they have not given an official timetable. I think you have to assume he's out tonight.
Yeah,
I know Pikel's been cryptic in the past, but you got to assume he's out.
I assume Omarui is going to get in foul trouble.
Amorie.
I know we got to get that right.
Okay. Cliff Amorie is going to get in foul trouble immediately. And if he's out, Rutgers is very, very, very much in trouble against Kofi Coburn. It's going to be lights out. Illinois got plenty of bodies to throw at Ron Harper. Williams, Hawkins, Grandison, Hutcherson. I think they can just cycle through those guys. I lean towards Illinois as well.
I'll be honest. I hate that I lean the dog in both these Big Ten matchups. Currently sitting at 8.5 right now at Bet Rivers. The Geo Baker thing is big, but then the more I look at how they played without him, not just this year, but in prior years. I know the sample's small, matchup dependent. I'm twisting this narrative very favorably in my Rutgers stance here.
And they had Jacob Young in past years.
Jacob Young was a key, right? He was sort of
UMass without Baker.
Yeah, but they were up 1 million points, and UMass was like 16 of 32 from three. Like 16 of 32, not like 12 of 32. 16 of 32. It was bananas, and you guys were both on Rutgers, and you had the right side in that one. I apologize.
Don't put that stink on me.
So Kai, your instincts were right there. They should be right in this matchup, and I think fading Illinois, who has a propensity to lose leads, they cannot close out games, and they had the gargantuan advantage up front against Notre Dame. They shot the lights out, and Notre Dame was still right there with potential to cover late.
I don't know. I know Blake Wesley went bananas.
Yeah, he went bananas. But still, I think Rutgers has
can do that.
Rutgers has I would argue, almost a more. I would say the offense is almost on par with Notre Dame's right now because of how in shambles Notre Dame's Prentice Hub thing is.
No,
they didn't make any shots in that game.
Rutgers offense is terrible.
Harper's getting better. Jimmy's getting healthier. Mulcahy's my guy. I don't know if I like a player in college basketball better than Mulcahy. This Rutgers offense is not horrific. It's good enough to keep this game close. I like the Scarlet Knights here. First conference pro game for the dog. Another spot. Boom.
I think Mulcahy's terrible.
I know you do. Okay. Well, you guys were.
I can't believe you just said Notre Dame's offense is equal to Rutgers right now.
So in that matchup, I think Rutgers can have a similar-esque offensive performance as what Notre Dame had in that matchup. No question.
Notre Dame is 17th in Ken Palm's adjusted offensive efficiency. Rutgers is 122nd.
They were exposed by athletes. Notre Dame was. Rutgers actually is the more athletic team than Notre Dame. They're not going to be. It's not like a men versus the boys type of thing. You kind of have to scrap and claw to score against Illinois. All right, you guys keep laughing. I'm making great points. They ignore me. That's fine. The chat mob's taking proper notes as they should. Next game, we're going to ACC here. Notre Dame at Boston College. Speaking of those Irish, who I just threw some shade at, Kai. The story, as Jim mentioned, is Wesley. Awesome. The freshman phenom who has come out of presumably nowhere to, in my opinion, become this team's best player. Is that another too strong of a take? It certainly isn't Prentice Hubbs. He's probably Prentice Hubb, excuse me. He's probably their worst player. And they've had some shoddy contributions from other guys as well. Kai, what are you looking at here with the Eagles hosting the Irish?
Yeah, Hubb is 4 for 29 from 3 this year. Not great. Wesley was certainly the best player against Illinois. He could do no wrong. Kept them in the game. Notre Dame has been wrecked against good shooting teams. They're allowing over 44% from deep. Boston College is emphatically not that. They attack the rim. They try to draw fouls, and they try to control the glass. And Notre Dame is the 13th best defensive rebounding team in the country right now, per Ken Pom. I think that's a huge advantage there. Obviously, Earl Grant's going to try to slow this down to a crawl. That's your worry here because Notre Dame is very comfortable playing that slow pace. Notre Dame -5 right now, Jim, might be a tad high for me, but I think they do kick off conference play right. I think they win this game outright. You mentioned.
Oh, you think the -5 wins outright?
Excuse me. I think they cover 5. You mentioned Notre Dame's 17th best offense in Ken Pom. I don't really buy that number. I'm confused. I think it's attached to preseason a little bit because they haven't looked great. But I think
Prentice Hub was supposed to be good, and he's actually the biggest underachiever in the country.
It's way better than Rutgers. That's why. For the record,
yeah, you can't make the comp to Rutgers.
I think they bounce back here though against Boston College. I think they get the cover here.
This is a tipping point game for Notre Dame for me. Or if you can't go into Boston College, picked dead last in the ACC in preseason, and win by 6+, then you're going to be kind of fraudy all year. I think this sets up where, hey, we got the Wesley emergence. We kind of are starting to see a little bit more of the pecking order. It's Wesley, it's Goodwin, a little bit of Cormac Ryan. Hub's just not it right now. If they can't get things figured out in this matchup, the conference opener, then I think I'm going to be skeptical of them basically the entire season. So I'm staying away from betting it. If I had to, gun to my head, I would go Notre Dame, but Earl Grant's feisty as a dog, and Notre Dame has not been firing on all cylinders, Matthew, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and just to clarify my Notre Dame take, I like what Bray and the coaching staff has done stylistically coming into the year. They instilled a pack line defense to sort of mask the athletic speed deficiencies. And I think they brought in the right personnel. They just haven't really panned out. Other than the Hub disaster. I mean, Atkinson's had good games against mid-majors, but we saw him be exposed pretty badly against Illinois. Now, Boston College, sort of a mid-major all-star type of squad akin to, Pitt and Minnesota, other teams we talk about a lot on this show here. So maybe it's not quite exposed in this matchup. I'm going to go the other way again here. I do like the dog. Getting Brevin Galloway back. I think this is his third game back in the rotation for BC. They've been banged up a bit. I thought they looked pretty good in their last outing. And I'm just still a little bit worried about Notre Dame. I know Wesley's been awesome, but I still think he could be prone to some freshman ups and downs, especially on the first pseudo big road game. I know Boston College won't be Cameron Indoor, but should be a fairly intense environment there. He could have some inconsistencies.
Is it a good home court? I think it's one of the worst in college basketball.
It's not good. It's still a conference game. I think it's probably a decent showing. I don't know. Boston College fans, please tell me what the attendance projection is tonight so I can vouch for my attendance.
You did the analysis. It's a terrible home court.
I think it's bad. It's one of the worst in the power conference landscape. Yes, fair. All right, final ACC game here. Another one that I don't think anyone is going to be watching tonight. Virginia hosting Pitt. I'm going to cover my eyes again. I like Pitt here, Jim. Just please eviscerate me for why backing any Jeff Capel team is a terrible idea, and inform the followers to not do as I say.
I don't mind it because Virginia's offense is a double-digit favorite. How do you get excited about that? Like, it's just
Tane Murray just raining it, baby. Just raining it.
Is he the difference maker that he showed in the second half against Iowa? That's the question. I'm a little hesitant to buy it completely. The thing, I think if Virginia covers, it's like 54-32 or something disgusting. Like Pitt could really struggle. Like this is going to be a crawl. Matt, you have the numbers on the lowest totals in the recent history, but this one is, I think, the lowest total of the year. Open 114s and bet down. I just don't really know how Pitt scores. They struggle to score against Vandy, against Minnesota. Like they're going to put up like 0.8 points per possession here.
Yeah, I like the under, and it's 113. It's 113. That's incredibly. That's one of the lowest totals I've seen, and I believe it because Pitt. We know Virginia's slow. They're the slowest team in the country. Pitt's 318th in tempo. They're not looking to run either. And you saw a 60 possession game against Minnesota. Yeah. That game went 107 points. Virginia's defense is way better than Minnesota's. Virginia played a 57 possession game against Iowa. That's ridiculous. This game is going to crawl. The spread is huge. So Matt, I don't like Jim. I don't hate the Pitt take because there is going to be like 58 possessions in this game. I don't really see Pitt scoring at all. That's the problem. They're kind of like the anti-pack line team on offense.
Yeah. I mean, this could be like 23-10 at halftime. Like that's not crazy to me. Right.
Yeah. Again, we've said, don't be scared of these low and high totals. Typically at the extremes, you still have value, even though it might spook you. The market and Ken Palm, the market drivers of these numbers are usually slow to adapt at the extremes. Jimmy mentioned the data that we had handy dandy. Virginia has played in the 5 lowest totals the last 5 seasons, dating back to 2016. I guess last 5. 3 and 2 to the under. Totals include 100, 102, 105, 105.5, 106.
That main game, the 100 total was epic.
I mean, just disgusting. So, Kai, to your point, it's low, but I think it's going to play pretty damn low. I would also lean under as well. Do not be scared of it, and do not follow my advice on Pitt. I'm not even going to make a case to justify it. Just don't. Let's get to some chat mob questions. There's a lot of MAC conference games that are not included on the outline, so I'm sure we'll hit those.
Yeah, there's a couple. I don't think many of them have rolled in yet, but we'll start.
Well, wake up, folks. Maction, baby. Maction. Excuse me.
We'll hit
We'll start with Pepperdine at UC Santa Barbara, heading west, the nightcap of the slate. Matt, do you have any take on the Waves here? They've got a really talented freshman class. So they hang around with the Gauchos.
I'm considering coming back against the early steam. It's now at -8, open at -9.5. I know the Gauchos have not been great this year, Jim. Maybe they're not the juggernaut we saw last season without McLaughlin, but man, Pepperdine, I just don't trust. I think they are a house of cards with the shots that they make, even though Kai, they are very talented.
The problem is Pepperdine can play really, really good or really, really bad. And I hate betting on or against those teams.
Yeah, I'm pretty.
I will say Pepperdine is going to be a lot better in like a month or two than they are currently. That's a team I can see starting covering a bunch of games once we hit 2022 because their freshmen, Jim, are getting so much better. And one of their newest freshmen, Maxwell Lewis, just got back in the lineup.
Yeah, I'd love to see them get blown out a bunch to depress their value so that when those young guys get better. I kind of like the over. I think this game plays relatively fast. Pepperdine has not played as fast as normal Romar teams, but they are a young backcourt that can get run up and down a little bit. I think the Gauchos will try to get going after a kind of weird game against UT Arlington that they lost at home. I think they're kind of going to be ready to push the pace, get some points going. So I would lean towards the over out west. All right, next, Matt, we do have a MAC question. Khalil Walker wants to know about Monmouth at Niagara. Now, actually, I'm going to table this because this will come up in best
the pause button. Yeah.
Yep. We'll come back to that, Khalil. It'll come up later. Ryan Smith, Kai wants to know about Bryant at Houston.
Yes.
Houston kind of has a reputation of demolishing bad teams. So they do that again here.
That's why I'm worried, because the spread's high at 23. I lean towards Bryant with my number. I didn't play it because Houston definitely can blow teams out, especially teams like to run like Bryant. Even though Bryant's offense is what they're known for, I still think it's going to be hard for them to score against this Houston team, who is chasms more athletic. I am worried. I am staying away.
Yeah, I took this one tiny, but I don't feel good about it. Bryant's not going to get any defensive rebounds, and getting open threes is really tough against Houston with the way they scramble on the perimeter and close out. So this one could end up being a bloodbath. It is high for a reason. Tread very lightly here. All right, Matt, I'll go to you for another Mountain West game. Ken Ray wants to know about Tulsa heading to Boise State. Boise State just kicked off one of their best three players, Devonaire Dutrieve. He's gone as of this morning. Does that give Frank Haith and the boys an edge to cover on the road?
Yeah, it does. Sounds like some folks were all over Boise early this morning and got bet up to 9.5 from 8. And from someone who just backed Boise in a losing effort at home to St. Louis, I would say good luck to you. Team shot 10 of 22 from the free throw line. I grossly underestimated how much this team lacks shooting. And when you're trying to cover a spread against a Tulsa team that will play zone and make you make shots, that's not a good recipe. I'd be looking to come back on the dog, if anything.
I'm surprised that it hasn't come back down after that Dutrieve news, Jim.
Yeah.
But it could be like a Brahma thing. Kick out a guy for chemistry.
Addition by subtraction.
Well.
Yeah. That's my concern. But I just like Boise has no guards now. It's Shaver, and I guess you're playing like Akat and Kegab with the ball in their hands more often. It concerns me. I think Tulsa can at least frustrate them and keep it within single digits. All right, next. Here we go, Matt. No, this isn't anyone's best bet, I don't think. Juan T wants to know about Manhattan at Siena.
This is mine.
It is Kai's best bet.
All right, so also tabled. Sorry, folks. You're asking the right questions, chat. Let's put it that way. We will hit those shortly. Matt, let's go back to the outline. I will continue accumulating here.
Yeah, big little non-con Big East, Big 12 showdown here. Kansas travels to the East Coast to take on the St. Johnny's Red Storm. This game will be played not at the Garden, not at the St. John's on campus, quote unquote.
Carnesecca
Arena, thank you. But the new Coliseum in Nassau, I don't have the exact name in front of me, but
UBS Arena.
UBS
Long
Arena.
Island.
Okay.
It's the New York Islanders' new.
Where they used to, or they're going to play not right. Okay. So
that's first college basketball game in this building.
So I'm really curious to see what the home atmosphere feels like. I used to think that the Garden is pretty strong for the Johnnies. You play there every year, and there's a strong contingent. Now I don't know how many. I don't know how that's going to translate to this new Coliseum. It could actually play more to a true neutral, Kai. But from a matchup perspective, I think KU is well built to eviscerate the St. John's pressure. That's where I stand.
They are. I had a gut feeling towards St. John's that got a little bit less gutty with the change in arena. Them not playing in Madison Square Garden. However, I still think they can cover this game. They've looked like dopes the last 3 games for sure. Fairleigh Dickinson by 13, St. Francis, New York by 6, and NGIT in overtime is terrible. But this team plays their competition. They're going to be up for this game. You can guarantee they've been thinking about Kansas for the last 3 weeks or whatever it is. We've seen these major power conference non-con bouts favor the home team for the most part. They seem to be super, super energized. It's obviously going to be up and down. St. John's can't really force turnovers against KU. Matchup is annoying for me, Jim. It definitely favors the Jayhawks. Gut, I just feel like St. John's hangs around.
Yeah, I mean, they hung around at Indiana. That was impressive. Lost by 2. They got down double digits in that one and fought back. I do agree with the play to the level of competition. That is kind of a St. John's staple. And as someone in the chat points out, their strength of schedule non-conference has been horrible. They haven't played anybody yet. Besides that Indiana mandatory Big Ten Gavitt games excursion there. So I lean towards Kansas. I got close to taking it when it got down to 6.5. I just think there's no real home here. It's going to be tough for anybody to get to this arena. So I would lean towards the Jayhawks, but I'm not betting it where it is, Matthew.
Yeah, we saw St. John's play well in the second half against IU to get back in that game. They unleashed full bore pressure, sort of caught I don't know, however you want to describe IU's backcourt. It's not necessarily the most reliable. Xavier Johnson, Rob Finnestein, those other, Parker Stewart, kind of caught IU off guard. I don't think that happens to KU. I think KU gets up big early and they keep them at arm's length throughout the entire way. So I don't think there's any risk of a backdoor here just because of how calm and collected guys like Agbaji and Jalen Wilson, tall, long dudes who can handle the ball, but then throw over the pressure to get easy attacking layups. Cause that's how you have to beat the press. You can't just kind of methodically walk up. You got to attack it and try and get quick layups.
Yeah. Punish the press. Like get the easy buckets. Yes. Don't just get it over half court and stop.
Don't get back on your heels. Cause that's what St. John's will do. And that's when they're at their best. Although I hate fading Justin Champagne. It's just an absolute delight of a basketball player.
It's going
hope
off.
That team turns around. What?
Going off.
For Kai, you better go off.
35 points, 40 points.
Boom. There you go. Big expectations for Mr. Champagne. Now we continue down the outline.
I got two more updates for you.
Yes. Here. Wow. News bombs galore.
Well, the one update is that Geo Baker is for sure out for Rutgers. Okay. He's officially ruled out. And then the other is that Turgeon was not fired. This was like a mutual, legitimate parting of ways. So that's probably part of the reason for the timing is if Turgeon like initiated some of it. So the plot thickens, folks.
I get that. If you're Mark Turgeon, you've heard about the hot seat crap for years. He's probably just like sick of it. He just needs a new change of scenery.
Third, something happened. We'll find out in the next couple of days.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he had an awesome year last year defied a lot of odds there. So I don't know. I feel for Mark Turgeon. That's where I'll stand. I'll be against the grain for the fifth time today. Number 8 on the outline, another rivalry showdown, the Battle of I-10 down in the West Texas, New Mexico corridor, Jim. New Mexico State traveling to UTEP. Two coaches here on the highest of pantheons in our minds.
I thought you were about to say hot seat. I was like, what?
Oh, no. These two teams should be locked up in jobs for the rest of time.
Yep.
Talking about, of course, Joe Golding, new coach at UTEP, formerly at Abilene Christian, New Mexico State, coached by Chris Jans. Jim, they just took.
But we don't know if Chris Jans will be on the sideline.
Key point there, right. Stuff. Will he be coaching today is the key question. That's kind of where it starts off, Jim. If Jans is out, does that play a big part in this handicap for you?
Not a huge part, but it nudges the number, I think, a little bit. He's brilliant. So having him on the sideline really, really helps. UTEP's getting Sule Boom and Christian Agnew back from COVID absences. Curious about Russ there. This is the second meeting already between these two in this rivalry this year. And the last one landed 6, but it was a blowout. Like it was not that close. New Mexico State was up like 20, close to 20 late in the second half, and then a run for UTEP, cut it down to make it look respectable. I sort of lean towards UTEP punching back here, despite that blowout in the first one. And they've taken a little money. I think they've flipped to the favorite here, or it's a pick 'em.
New Mexico State is back to favorite.
Oh,
flip back.
Yeah,
tug of war. Yeah, interesting. So nothing really strong here, unfortunately. I'd be nervous about backing UTEP just because I don't know how sharp Boom and Agnew will be after their brief absences, Kai.
Had New Mexico State beaten New Mexico, I think this would have been a home run spot for UTEP.
Yeah,
but New Mexico State lost that game. They're coming off that one hungry. It is an enormous rivalry. UTEP was my initial gut lean here. +1, I'd still probably consider. I think they have a good shot winning this. They can go toe to toe with New Mexico State in terms of talent. And they shot poorly in that first game, like extra poorly. Maybe they shoot better in this one. Mexico State shot it well. Also, New Mexico State turned it over 7 more times than UTEP in that first game. So maybe there's some pieces there for UTEP to come back here, get the win. But them being down 20, Jim, like you said in the second half, is concerning. Maybe Mexico State is just that much better this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and no one weaves in pressure better than Joe Golding. So I think you could see another high turnover output from the Aggies, even though they've already seen it once. Because they don't really have an established point guard right now. They have a couple options. It seems like James is tinkering through. I do lean New Mexico State, though, just from a value pricing perspective. I just don't have any appetite to fade Joe Golding, excuse me. I still have nightmares from betting Texas minus, was it 8 or 9 against Abilene Christian in the tournament last year, which ended so terribly. Next up, going back to the northeast part of the country, Colgate at Northeastern, Beantown here, Kai. The Raiders are my squad. They've been a pet favorite of ours for a couple of years now. Catching Northeastern with a myriad of injury concerns, rotational shakeups. And for that reason, it's sort of why I'm kind of staying on the sideline for this game. But are you looking to find an angle because of that?
That's why you're seeing this at Colgate -2, -2.5, because Northeastern is hurt. Shaquille Walters, his status is huge. He was out last game. Northeastern lacks creators in general. They use wings as point guards, and Walters is one of those guys. And if he's out, their offense gets even worse, which is unbelievable because their offense is putrid. Jogo has been out a bunch through Notre Dame transfer. Remember, these two teams played each other first game of the year. Colgate killed them. It wasn't that close. They won by 8. They dominated most of the way, though. Jim, Northeastern's offense is just so bad, and with the injuries here, I can't back them.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that they got Tyreek Scott Grayson last game. He came in and gave him a little bit of a boost, but you mentioned Jogo, you mentioned Walters, Stuka, the shooter, the Canadian shooter. He's out. He's been out too. It does feel limited, and Northeastern's really been awful in second halves. Like they might come out and play really well in the first half, but I think they run out of gas. They blew a lead last game against Detroit, but were able to come back and get the cover. But against Colorado State, they were up big at half, got murdered second half. Same thing against Harvard. I think the depth is really wearing on them, or the lack thereof. So I would lean towards Colgate full game, and maybe you just wait until second half and take Colgate second half. That might be the play.
Yep. I think another one of those live betting examples I mentioned at the onset, although this situation is a little bit different. It's not like a conference game, but there are teams we've seen this year and in years past that I think psychologically the second half demise becomes so frequent that it's just a part of their psyche and they can't get it out of their head. I mean, SMU is the prime example, but there's a ton of others. In Northeastern this year has blown leads. Montana last season was one that used to always frustrate us. So if there's
SMU
Pony MF and excess, my goodness. Of course they played well the day we decided to give up on them. Anyway, last game here on the outline. We'll get to the last round of questions and then give you our best bets. Charleston at Furman, another mid-major special. Man, the quality of coaches that we have lined up in today's outline is pretty stellar. Bob Ritchie at Furman.
Jeff Capel's in there.
Jeff Capel, right. I mean, the list goes on and on. But Pat Kelsey at Charleston. I mean, I think he is. You can't. Good. Pretty good. He lost one of his key players, DT transfer in Bolin early in the year.
Love him.
No problem. They're still ho-humming along. Catching 7.5, 8, I believe, is the current number. Depending on where you look, I think Bet Rivers has it at 7.5 if my page is refreshed. Does that give you any incentive to take the Cougars here, Kai?
It feels high on the onset here, but the pace is going to be high. Also, in Charleston, we talked about fastest team in the country, and Furman doesn't need to run, but they absolutely will run. They have no issue playing in transition. Both teams are just so well coached. Both coaches are smart. They both do kind of the same thing. They run shooters off the line and they take a bunch of threes. They play the game analytically correct. Charleston, Jim, they're not that much worse than Furman, in my opinion. So this spread just does feel kind of high. I'm concerned for the high possessions. Furman is so efficient offensively, and Charleston's defense is lacking, we'll say, this year. So that kind of scares me away. It's a stay away overall, but my lean is Charleston.
Yeah, I think both coaches have a similar philosophy with how they build teams. Like we talked to Bob Ritchie on our own pod, and it was the can't shoot, don't recruit type of philosophy. Like he wants guys that can step out, including in the front court. And I think for the most part, Charleston's got some mobile, versatile big men too that can step out. Like John Meeks can guard on the perimeter a little bit.
Stud.
OC Smart is athletic enough to get out there. The problem is Furman doesn't have the same kind of depth. So if they run like crazy, maybe that benefits Charleston a little bit. I think Furman tries to keep this closer to half court. They're just way better in the half court. They execute more. They've got more continuity in the roster, in the scheme. So I would maybe lean towards Furman if they're able to control tempo, but I don't have a great feel for this one, Matt. I like both teams. I like both coaches. It is kind of a stay away. Nothing real solid for me.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing too, Jim. The early money bet the total up to 162. So it feels like people are seeing an up and down track meets. But we just saw Charleston beat Chattanooga last week in a slow 68 possession game, slow for their standards. And you're right. I think Furman is probably scared of Charleston's transition attack. And, maybe Ritchie is trying to ramp up the possessions because he knows he's the favorite. There's a tug of war in my mind to how the pace goes here. I do lean with Jim, though. It does feel like it's a little slower than the market is anticipating. If you're going to play anything here, I would take the under. But I have no desire to fade either coach. I think the price is about accurate.
162, man, that's high.
Big,
that's really high.
I know. All right, back to Chat Mob, Jim.
All right, back to Chat Mob. Yeah, we do have a couple of Mac questions. Mason Dislin, Matt, I know you consider this for a best bet, so to kind of set the stage for you, St. Peter's at Quinnipiac. What do you got?
I like St. Pete. I just don't like Quinnipiac at all. I'm sure I'll check the lineup today and there'll be some guys who have been out that make their debut and I'll be like, whatever. But we've learned this year, injuries don't matter. Players don't actually matter. Teams are just organisms that sort of heal themselves no matter who steps into the jersey. So I think St. Pete's a better team. They've struggled in the non-con so far, but I think they get it done on the road.
Kai, any take there? Nothing?
I lean towards St. Peter's as well, but the MAC is kind of like the MWAC, is like a chameleon or like can't clownfish change their sex? I think that's a fact about clownfish.
Clownfish?
That's basically
Important.
the MAC.
That's what you come to the Three Man Week's Best Bet show for clownfish.
Those analogies.
They're good one day, they're bad
Gender
the other.
Fluidity. We love it.
Yes, the MAC is very fluid. I mean, every single team beats every other team. It's a frustrating league to bet on.
All right, Kai, I'll go to you for this one. I know Matt has a take here, but I'm sending it to you. New Orleans at Louisiana, the Cajuns. Brandon and a couple others actually mentioned this in the chat. Do you have any lean here? Kai, that was to you.
Excuse me. Pardon me. No, I want Louisiana, not Lafayette anymore, to get back on track because I was very high on this team in the preseason. Obviously, a top 3 Sun Belt team, at least in my eyes. They've been hurt. Brian Au has been out. Their point guard. He should be back. The Cajuns should start getting rolling. So I'm leaning their way, Jim. Spread's a little high for me.
Yeah, I liked it when it was below 10. I don't like it anymore now that it's taken off a little bit. I just think Louisiana is not going to be the worst, one of the worst 2-point shooting teams in the country. Their front line is way too good for that. Hopefully, as they get a little bit better playmaking with AU coming back, that should help. Matt, you want to give your 2 cents?
I can't believe like the odds makers and the big money likes Louisiana way too much. They've been set, I think, pretty high on the openers. They've been bet even higher on the openers. I'm just like, hey, I like this team. I don't like them that much.
And so they haven't been that good.
They haven't been that good. So
I wanted the value to come down.
I would say keep betting them, guys out there who have betting them. I'm sure you're watching the show. Continue to ride that dumpster fire because it's still burning right now.
Oh, how dare you? All right. Pete asking about 2 of the wagons of the year so far. I know both of you have an opinion on the first one. I'll field the second one myself, but throwing this to either of you, one of you jump in authoritatively. North Dakota at San Jose State. Tim Miles on the schedule here.
North Dakota for me. I think I love San Jose State. I love Tim Miles, but I think the market is too much in love with San Jose State. I think everyone's thinking that they're awesome, and they're not quite awesome. They're a lot better for San Jose State. So this feels like a little bit too much for me. I'm leaning North Dakota.
Yeah, it's a big number for San Jose State. Like, in what world is San Jose State laying 6 points to any D1 team? I know it's Tim Miles. 7. Yeah. I mean, that's just, I don't know. I guess I lean North Dakota, but North Dakota has been a little bit of a train wreck as well. Yeah.
And then the other one, VMI at Portland. We know Portland's been mega resurgent on the West Coast with a new coach as well. This one has been bet up too. Matt, we don't know about Trey Bonham, the point guard for VMI. Right. That's pretty huge. That team has 0 Zippo, not a depth. So to lose a key starter and probably the best athlete in their perimeter group is a problem. So I would probably lean towards Portland with the big travel and the limitations of the roster.
Yep, agree. Again, injuries don't matter. There are a few that do. And I think Bonham is one of those guys just because of what he means from a replacement value perspective on both ends.
Yep. All right, that is it for the chat. We didn't see Ryder Iona come up. I think we lean towards the dog without Joyner, but nothing too strong. Make sure to hit that like button, chat. We appreciate you coming in and getting in some questions. Hit the like button, hit subscribe. I guess we'll go best bets, which I keep the mic here, don't I, Matthew? All right.
Yeah, I didn't really plan that out. Sorry, Jen. I kind of kept you on the soapbox too long. It's my bad. You got it. You got it.
My best bet, and it's still -2, thankfully, is Monmouth on the road at Niagara. I was a little slow to the Monmouth train this year, slow to arrive to the party, but they're excellent. Playing through Walker Miller has given them a whole new feature to their offense and interior presence. And Shafar Reynolds has been great coming over from Seton Hall. He struggled early, but he's been terrific lately. And I just think Niagara has been a little bit above its head to the point that their value has gotten kind of high. They lost was it Solomon that quit the team right before the year or opted out. So they're not quite the full strength Niagara, even though they have played well. I will go with the slight road fave here. Kai, to you with my Monmouth -2.
I like that, Jim. And I think Colgate gave us a little favor because they got smashed by Niagara. They shot 7 for 26 from 3, which Colgate's never done that in the history of Colgate. So I think that result's a little misleading and maybe be pushing that this number down a little bit for Monmouth. So way to go, Jim. Way to find that value.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to go with another MAC team. And I already said the clownfish comment. I don't like to bet on this conference, but I tend to do it a lot. Siena minus 3.5 right now at Bet Rivers. I would love 3, but I'm going to take the Bet Rivers line 3.5. I just think Siena is going to get a lot better. They started bad. They've had a lot of players in and out of the lineup. They seem to be fully healthy now. Aiden Carpenter is back, 6'5" point guard for them. Playtech is fully integrated in the lineup. Gaines is hopefully playing better. This Manhattan team, though, Matt, is certainly better this season, offensively at least, with Jose Perez. But I'm still on the Siena train here, and I like them at minus 3.5.
Yep, I think you guys both have the right sides there. I'm sure that comment will age well. But you're right. The action is a fun house of unpredictability. So who the hell knows on any given night?
I like to get blessed by Matthew. Makes me feel good. Like, oh, if Matt likes my bet, I'm in good shape then.
Bestowed. Okay, my best bet. Going on the extra board. Taking the Fighting Juan Dixons of Coppin State. They're catching 7.5 at Cornell, who has been like the 96 Bulls so far. From a cover perspective, they have done nothing wrong. Just beat the doors off bad teams and covered when we didn't expect them to. I think it kind of comes back down to earth tonight. I know Coppin has been basically living in airplanes the last 2 weeks, but every time we think they're going to crack, they just play another really good team close. St. Bonaventure had them down at the half. Even the second half, when we've seen St. Bonnie's put the hurt on teams, they didn't really go away. In fact, they kind of hung around and it still stayed around a 10-point game. And I think both these teams are deep, but Coppin has a little more depth at its disposal with talent. So I'm going to go Coppin plus 7.5.
At Coppin State, 9-2 against the spread, a +6 cover margin. Cornell 6-0 against the spread, a +12 cover margin.
Something's going to break.
What's going to
give?
Wild that Coppin is 9-2 against the spread already. It's 11 games. Good gracious.
That's a lot of games.
Yeah, it's wild. Come on, Juan Dixon, deliver for me here. Well, that wraps up our show, kids. Solid work all around. You had some news bombs of first for this program. I'm sure that'll be hammered on the Field 68 network the rest of the day. Make sure to tune into the channel. And of course, thank you to our fine sponsor at Bet Rivers for making the show possible. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe. We're coming back to you tomorrow, our weekend early slot time, 10:15 a.m. Central, 11:15 Eastern, and 8:15 Pacific. Kai, we do know time zones very well. Until that time, good luck tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.